heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson. The following program contains mature subject matter that is definitely suitable for the arts and crescent crowders, not to mention left-mid pinko comedies. Even feminazis are welcome. Humanomaniacs, psychomobabblers, environmentalist wackos, pentomet geeks, and especially welcome members of the now crowd. And I'm here to make sure nobody kicks your butt. Here he is, Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you, my good friend. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Rush Limbaugh, by the way, here on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. And we're ready to go for yet another exciting excursion into broadcast excellence. Think what we're going to do today. I've discussed this with Bo Snerdley, the official screener of calls. Ladies and gentlemen, the city of San Francisco has done many things as a city since the Gulf War began that have caused curiosity around the country, to say the least. That's being kind about it. In many instances, the nation has been outraged and angry. The Board of Supervisors out there, which is the same thing as a city council in essence. It pretty much function as a city council. The Board of Supervisors out there, during the beginnings of the war, passed a resolution proclaiming that San Francisco was a sanctuary for those opposed to the war, those avoiding it, evading it, dropping out from it, and so forth. Despite the fact that such sanctuary resolutions are violations of federal law, well, the war ended, and the Chamber of Commerce said, all right, let's throw a parade for the troops. Somebody said, let's throw a parade for the troops, and everybody laughed at that. You know, the troops aren't that idiotic. Nevertheless, the Chamber of Commerce placed full-page ads saying, please, don't blame the whole city because of what the Board of Supervisors is doing. We are patriotic out here, and this is not being spoken of for the whole city, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Then they got a letter. The Board of Supervisors got a letter from the mayor, Art Agnos, asking them to rescind the resolution now that the war's over. Hey, the war's over. Rescind your stupid sanctuary resolution. They won't do it. The Board of Supervisors voted 7-4 yesterday not to rescind the resolution. And the thing is now that there's members of the business community out there and others who are concerned about tourism are very much alarmed that there may be backlashes in a political sense to all this, given that they can read the polls. 85% of the people supported this and don't understand such sanctuary resolution. And I thought what we would do today, this has me intrigued a bit. And I think in the final hour of the broadcast today, we are going to open our phones exclusively for a time to just people from the Bay Area. We're not going to do a whole hour on it, but what we're going to do, at the beginning of the last hour, we're going to clear the lines. I'm going to ask all of you who are not residents of the Bay Area not to call so that we can get our first bank of calls for the final hour from the Bay Area, San Francisco and environs, from people on both sides of this issue out there and find out what's the hang-up now. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, we have here another classic example. This anti-war, this sanctuary resolution is in essence a resolution which was passed so as to denote the city of San Francisco's, as expressed by the Board of Supervisors, opposition to American policy. The fact that they refuse now to rescind the resolution gives, does it not, credence to the theory, at any rate, that there may be some genuine anti-Americanism going on out there, not just anti-America policy. The policy's over and done with now. It was waged successfully, implemented and executed, prosecuted successfully. So what's the chip on the shoulder for now? So I thought we would try to find out and talk to residents of the Bay Area, the final hour of the program today, and we're going to need your cooperation in order for them to be able to get through. By the way, we want to welcome a new affiliate to the EIB network, WIOI, in New Boston, Ohio. That brings us now to 328 radio stations. It was just last Friday that I think they told me it was 325. So now we've hit 328, and no doubt we'll continue climbing. We have some exciting stuff on the program today. Are you aware of the story from Bangkok, Thailand? By the way, do you know that I always find this incredible. This name for me, the city in the world with the most prostitutes per capita in the world. It's Bangkok. Is that not funny? The name of the city, Bangkok, and then the most prostitutes per capita. I mean, there are certain things, that you couldn't write that they just happened. That just happened. For those of you in Rio Linda, California, who are, what does that mean? Ask your mothers. Anyway, in Bangkok, Thailand, a missing name tag is the culprit. A young woman gave birth to a baby and killed it because she couldn't afford it. Then they found out that it was not her baby. They had given her someone else's baby from, what do you call it in the maternity? Well, what do you call it? I don't know. The nursery. That's right. You people who have children and frolic and all that with them would know that word nursery. I don't. Last time I heard the word nursery was I was in nursery school, 3 years old or whatever it was. Boy, I hated the teacher too. What a witch. At any rate, the question now becomes, what do you do with the surviving baby? Mother didn't want it, probably still doesn't because she can't afford it, but the mother mistakenly killed the wrong one. There is a way out of this. There is, and inquiring minds' eyebrows are raised. Uh-oh, what's he going to say now? There is a way out of this. You have a retroactive abortion law in Bangkok. That's all you do. You say abortion is legal not only in fetal conditions, but 2 days after birth. This thing is handled. It's done with. Speaking of abortion, every time I bring it up, you wouldn't believe the letters I get. You better stop talking about it, or you're going to lose your popularity, pal. You better stop talking about that and animals. I'm getting tired of hearing you talk about animals. And then we get the people who are tired of hearing me do this. You're going to lose your popularity, pal. Abortion, 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 animals, animals, animals. Go away if you don't like it. That's what this show is. Whatever is in the news, it's an event-driven show. If you don't like what's in the events, then go find a typical boring pap talk show. The state of Utah has passed what is the most restrictive abortion law in the country. And the ACLU placed a full-page ad in Sunday's New York Times in response, and a firestorm has erupted from that ad. The ad simply says, in Utah, they know how to punish a woman who has an abortion. Shoot her. That's the ad. Of course, there's no such law of books in Utah, but they do make abortion a criminal act. This law, the Utah law, does make it a criminal act, but it's not punishable. There's an ancient one of these antique laws on the books in Utah, similar to laws still on the books that say you cannot water your horse on the main street of town between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. Little towns in Massachusetts can still have those laws on the books. They're quaint. They haven't taken them off the book. They have an old law in Utah that for certain kinds of crimes, you either get pistol whipped to death or you get shot or you get firing squad death or something like that. They just haven't taken. So ACLU seized on that. So they're going to change the law out there in Utah now to say that the doctor will now face the criminal charges and is not going to be the sentence will not include death. There will not be capital punishment for this. There will be a $10,000 fine, some jail time. A doctor who performs an abortion. But this ad has this shows you, folks, just how fertile the battleground on this issue is. In Utah, they know how to punish a woman who has an abortion. Shoot her. Man, these people will stop at nothing. That is blatantly not true. That is blatantly pot-stirring, so they say. And I think it's unconscionable. The ACLU is supposed to be this tried and true, dignified organization to run every. How can the ACLU, after running an ad like that, how can they dare criticize anybody in the media for being shock-oriented or extremist-oriented? That is the epitome of it, and it appeared in the New York Times. It's just heck. I think some of the people involved in this on both sides are a little sick, but that may take the cake. Many people want to continue the discussion started yesterday over what to do about Japanese imports. I was up late last night. The phone rings about 12:30. A friend of mine in California, Thomas W. Hazlett, has his girlfriend call me and razz me about what I had to say yesterday about imports. I didn't say anything about it. I disqualified myself from the conversation. I simply played devil's advocate. I have to disqualify myself from conversations involving the Chrysler Corporation for reasons which I can't tell you. But nevertheless, the people are in an uproar over this on both sides of it, and it's an interesting discussion, and if you didn't get in yesterday and want to continue it, feel free. It is one of these things that remains a major event. Saddam Hussein, as you know, has apparently skimmed $11 billion since 1981, and we now know where some of it has been invested. His nickname could be Saddam Hussein, magazine publisher of Baghdad. He owns a piece of a company called Hatchet SA, which is a company which publishes magazines such as Woman's Day, Elle, and Car and Driver. And the company is, of course, now running for cover here to distance themselves from this. They didn't know because Hussein's company, his front company that he set up to make these investments, is an outfit called Montana, and it's based in Geneva. And it has 8.4% of the equity and 5.2% of the voting rights of this company. But the company is saying, that doesn't mean anything. This Hussein has zero to say about anything that goes on in our company. It's interesting now that the management of Hatchet SA wants to put out the notion, anybody thinking Saddam Hussein's one of our editors, nope, no chance. Don't even count on it. There is a story, or a survey has been released by Ms. Magazine. A nationwide survey of 4,450 women indicates that 75% of these women, and this is supposed to now be representative of the entire female population of our country, 75% of the women in America have experienced violence from men. 29% of those questions said they had been battered by a spouse or lover. 12% said they had been raped by a husband or partner. 23% said they had been raped by an acquaintance. 6% said they'd been raped by a stranger. 10% said they'd been mugged at least once. 6% said they had a boss, client, or teacher who had demanded sex. 4% said they had been physically threatened in work. Only 7% said they've never experienced male violence and also never knew a rape victim. Only 7% of the women in America said they have never experienced male violence. Now, the last time, I know this is going to be risky here, but I note that Pamela Smart, guilty of having her husband murdered, and here is a story from Washington, Pennsylvania. A woman accused of killing her husband after he had taped her and her teenage boyfriend plotting the murder, tearfully confessed to the crime. Well, I guess these women are killing their husbands because their husbands are mean to them. That must be what's going on here. Anyway, we'll take a break. Your calls, 800-282-2882, coming up. The charmingly boastful Rush Limbaugh, 328 radio stations now, EIB network expanding faster than my waistline. And a cellular call to kick us off from Modesto, California. Bill, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Rush.
Hi, Bill.
Hello from Modesto.
Thank you very much.
From the Cheers Group at the Dryden Coffee Shop.
Thank you, sir.
Got a little joke for you about the animal rights activists.
A joke about animal rights activists, eh?
Yeah.
All right, Kiki, take the caller off the air as we screen the joke to make sure that the standards I have so laboriously set and maintained are upheld. Go ahead, Bill. By the way, how long is this joke? Go ahead and tell the joke. All right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. This is an old joke. This is an old joke. This joke, what? You haven't heard it, Kiki? Aaron, they're listening to this on cue. Give me the punchline just to make sure I remember this one. What's the punchline? What the heck? I'm gonna allow it. I'm in one of these frivolous moods. I'll allow it. Most of you people have heard this, but I would think you have. It's been around for a long time. Go ahead, Bill. Tell the joke here.
Okay. Lady walking down the street in New York City.
Could be any city in America.
All right, any city. She's wearing a fur coat. Mm-hmm. Guy walking by stops her. Lady, do you realize how many animals were killed so you could wear that coat? She goes, wow, that's nothing. You know how many animals I had to have sex with to get this coat?
Okay, Bill, thanks for calling.
Thanks.
You bet. See you later. Virginia Beach. Michael, hello. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Rush.
Hi.
I'm a first-time caller.
Thank you.
And I'm not nervous.
Good for you.
Very good. Listen, I want to get your opinion on a ruling last week by a Florida judge who said that a Florida law prohibiting gays from adopting children was ruled unconstitutional, thus letting a 53-year-old man adopt a boy. And the judge ruled, as I said, it was unconstitutional. What would you say about that, and what is your stand on that? How would you argue that case?
Well, I would put it in terms of, as I always have, the culture war that is being waged in the country. And I think that there are a number of subcultures who are just tired of that status and are seeking to be proclaimed normal and to become part of the mainstream. And in the process, they are challenging some of the old traditions that the primary culture in this country has always maintained. So that, I think, is the root of it. The thing that I think people oppose about homosexual adoption, and I think this is the thing that most homosexuals, either they should know, or they do know and choose to ignore, or they choose to pay no attention to it regardless, is that most people look at homosexuals that are militant and political, and those homosexuals give the entire homosexual population an image. And when people who seem to have as their only identity their sexual orientation demand to be treated normally and favorably and so forth, given that sexual orientation, people become frightened. Because people who lead with it, people to whom their sexual orientation is defining, to whom it is the most important aspect of their existence, people say, I think they may try to spread that. I think they may try to recruit. And I have found that in the heterosexual community that that's where the fear is. Parents who don't want their kids being taught by homosexuals, for example, fear that what's going to happen is that the homosexual is going to encourage or recruit or promote the homosexual sexual lifestyle. And heterosexual parents of heterosexual kids, they're just scared to death of that. And I think it's also been true of homosexual adoption, homosexual or lesbian couples adopting. The fear that recruitment and influence it is going to be exerted on the adoptee. And the reason people think that, again, is because what they know of the gay community is what they see, unfortunately, in groups like ACT UP and the militant political protests. So they fear that the homosexual community seeks to expand itself with brainwashing. I think that's the fear. And, of course, I've asked homosexuals about, we're not trying to do that. That's not and they'll deny it. So I don't know what you do.
What would you say, then, to a homosexual who said, well, I'm not a liberal, a homosexual. I'm not an activist. I just want to adopt a kid. Would you deny an adoption on those grounds?
Well, this is a toughie. It's not something that I can just answer right off the cuff here. I haven't given it considerable thought, and it would take considerable thought. The thing that has to be said, and I want to stress this, and I'm not going to have time to stress it in these remaining seconds. I'll stress it when we return.
Okay.
Because I think it's crucial in anybody coming to a decision on this. We got to go. Be back in just a moment. Ooh, sing it again. It's the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, Rush Limbaugh, 800-282-2882. Look, on homosexual adoption, I don't know how I feel about it. I've got mixed emotions. There are certain people I hope would never be allowed to adopt a child, and some of them are gay. I, on the other hand, know some gay people who probably would do a great job raising a kid. There are all kinds. The problem here is that we're trying... What is it about... see if I can say this properly. You have a percentage of the population of this country which is gay. They say it's 10%. So let's use that. Of the 10%, you clearly have those, like in any other segment of the population, you'd rather not deal with. Some sickos. You have some people whose values are totally foreign to you and us and everybody else. But that's true of every group, however you want to group people. So I think adoption ought to come down as on an individual case basis. To speak of an entire population or an entire group and say nobody from that group is qualified to be a parent is a bit extreme to me, just because of their sexual orientation. I know some of you are stunned probably to hear this, but the problem I've always had with the gay community is one that they don't offer too much help in getting out of. And that is that, as I said in the previous call, the gay community today is thought of by most people to be people who are like those in ACT UP. Those are the people making the noise. Those are the people defining the gay community today. Whether the gay community wants to hear that or not, that's what's happening. And the people who are in the protest march and who are throwing things at people and demanding to be included in things simply because of their sexual orientation frightens people. Most people are afraid of homosexuality, and they are very much alarmed that their children might be subjected to it, when it seems that the only members of the gay community which are up front and public about themselves are the militants. The problem is that the gay community doesn't, members of the gay community don't publicly dissociate themselves from the militant members of the group. Whereas you take certain conservatives, look at the Republican Party and its treatment of David Duke. They don't want anywhere near David Duke. They don't want anywhere near somebody who used to be a member of the Klan. But in the gay community, you don't find that, because they know that there is strength in unity, and their numbers are not that great as a percentage of the entire population. So you don't find too many people in the gay community dissociating themselves from ACT UP or any other militant homosexual group. And that alarms people too. But then, if you have had experience, if you happen to know anybody who's gay, who's not militant, and not politically or sexually orientated motivated, then as I do, there are many gay people I know who I think do a fine job raising a kid based upon their set of values. But I don't know, to make a decision on this based upon I just have a big problem with homosexuality becoming an ethnic minority now. I think that's going a bit far, and treating the whole group of them as a group, the whole gay population as a group, and saying you can't exclude them from being parents, or you can, rather than just judging it on an individual case-by-case basis, as adoption is on any other. You don't say that all whites are capable of being parents, and therefore anybody who's white can adopt a kid. If somebody who's white shows in his lifestyle, in his past, to behave in such a manner that's not good for kids, well, then you don't let that person adopt. Then there are those who say, and you have the cynics, and this is true too, I mean, you can't deny this attitude exists. Well, look, homosexuals by definition are not engaged in activity to procreate the race, so why should they be given the benefit of adoption? You have people who think that. I mean, it's bitter. I don't mean to say that it's not full of rancor and so forth, but I just really think, listen to this, advising the gay community, I think many of you mainstream homosexuals in this country could do yourselves a lot of favor by distancing yourself from some of the militant extremists who, whether you like it or not, are defining what everybody thinks of you. Joe in Lansing, Ohio. Hi, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program.
Yeah, first I wanted to tell you not to call me unpatriotic, because I have a nephew that flew F-16s, Lieutenant Colonel, over in Saudi Arabia.
Why do you think I'd call you unpatriotic?
Well, because you always call people names that don't agree with you.
No, I do not. You're thinking of somebody else.
Anyhow.
Well, give me an example of it.
Well, I mean, like you call liberal, if you don't agree with somebody, it's always a name like calling to get out of it,
No, I think you got it backwards. I think that it is liberals who, shortly after running out of substance in discussions with me, start calling me names and insulting me. I spend more time on the phone with people who disagree with me in polite conversation than any host in this country. And
what I wanted to tell you, I tried to call for about 3 weeks. My sister had a friend who lost, I get choked up, a son over there from the outfit from Greensburg. They were in the water purification, that was killed over there. Mm-hmm. She went to the funeral, and the boy's mother said to her when she was there, and she spent 2 days there, She said, I wish somebody would have came to at least tell me why my son died. She says Bush went to Canada, to Kennebunkport, to Bermuda, but nobody could show up at the funeral. And that's all I have to say. And when you talk about San Francisco having these draft dodgers, I think that would have been a first place Newt Gingrich and Phil Gramm would have run to. Don't you?
No.
They were draft dodgers.
No, I wouldn't. They were not draft dodgers. What do you define as a draft dodger?
Well, anybody that bought his way out.
How'd they buy their way out?
They didn't go to the service.
How'd they buy their way out?
I read.
What did they do?
Well, they went to college. Just like everybody else that bought their way out. Uh-huh.
Joe, you know, you're falling into a dangerous trap here by saying that people who have not served in the military somehow have no right to comment on it or to be pro-military.
But they had the guts to send somebody else's son there, didn't they?
I don't think that you can look at it that way.
Well, tell me how you look at it.
Well, you know, I'm just, despite my better judgment here, I'm going to try. This may be flailing away at nothing here, but I'm going to try.
I'm going to listen.
Because I think I want you to understand this. Because I think that the attitude that you have is poisonous. I think it's making you bitter, and there's no reason.
I am.
Well, you should. Why? You shouldn't be bitter. I really
You
don't. I
guys
don't know where to
always
begin
brag
with.
about how great this was, and try telling that to the people that lost, like this lady lost her son. Try telling them.
I think they have been told. I think that the people of this country have.
She told me nobody showed up, just the honor guard.
I think the people of this country have shown in any number of ways their appreciation and their gratitude and their solemn feelings of support for what these people did. This has been one of the most supported military engagements in this nation's history. Now, as to whether or not the president or vice president showed up at the funeral, I'm not familiar what precedent is on that. I don't know if
Well, I remember Reagan went to the funeral. We were talking about it, and he and Nancy went to the funeral of the boys, the Marines, that were killed in Lebanon.
Right.
They did. And I said, no.
That was a memorial service for all of them. It was not the funerals. It was a memorial service. I'm not a fine line here, but that took place in one location with all of the members of the family who could get there present. It was not really the funerals. You can't go to all the funerals. Now, I don't know if there's been a memorial service, an official memorial service with the families of those who lost their lives yet or not. I wouldn't say that just because there hasn't been, there won't be one. I don't think this country is nearly through with the show of support and appreciation for what has happened here. Remember, the big party is planned on July 4th, and I think there are parts of that party that are going to be pretty solemn, in addition to it being celebratory. But anyway, back to Newt Gingrich and Phil Gramm and others. I heard somebody, Mark Shields, a columnist for the Washington Post, wrote a column and said that Cheney and Quayle had no right to even be involved in this because they were chicken hawks. They didn't go to the war.
I believe that, too.
You do? Dick Cheney was only one of the masterminds of the policy. What is it that says you have to have engaged in an activity, Joe, in order to be able to qualify to talk about it? Why is it, for example, do I have to go out and become a drug addict in order to be able to understand or know that it's bad? Do I have to go to war? Do I have to actually get in the line of fire to appreciate?
Before you order somebody else's son to go,
You can't do it. We have a 300 or 500,000 troops over there. You don't have that many people in government ever at one time, Joe. That's what leadership is, and that's what responsibility is. There are people who have to do the right thing, especially volunteer force. It's impossible to run policy that way. It's like the football coach. There are some football coaches at one time, and besides Bush has been there, madam.
I know.
Bush shot out of the sky twice, and he's the ultimate guy who sent him off. I mean, whatever Graham and Gingrich did was irrelevant. He was going to send those people over there, and he was going to start the war whether he got the resolution votes or not.
Well, I just think they should have had the guts to at least to show up at somebody's, like I say, or send an envoy or somebody. I guess she was real deep. I didn't go. I was not here. Well, not really a close friend of mine, not somebody I knew, real well personally, but a good friend of my sister's because she used to live there. And
Joe, can I ask you a quick question? Were you for or against all this from the beginning?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I had a nephew in there, and then I had a nephew.
Yeah, but were you for it or against it? I mean, it sounds to me like you have a prejudicial disagreement with this government.
Well, I
anyway.
didn't think Saddam's life was worth 100 and some, 122 of our boys' lives. And he's a big cheese over there still,
Well, but it wasn't about Saddam's life, although it seems now maybe it should have been. That's a whole other discussion. We're leaving a permanent base there. I'm going to call it Fort Schwarzkopf. And he's absolutely wreaking havoc now in his own country. Some are saying we should have kept going and we were 150 miles.